Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School, and I'm here today because I wanted to I finally got away from some of the stuff I was doing, some family commitments, which are very important. That matters more than anything. But also, you guys are part of my family too, and my goal at the end of the day is to help and to educate, maybe inspire you. Although I think education and information is better than inspiration, but whatever works with you, whatever floats your boat, I would like to offer that to you because I want to see you win. What's going on to everybody on Instagram? I see you guys are coming in today. The topic I wanted to address it goes back to LeBron James. LeBron James, everybody knows LeBron. Excuse me, his brother has done amazing things as a professional athlete and has really set the world on fire. And one of the things that he did recently, in terms of setting the world on fire, is he made a comment that really shouldn't be taken lightly about the NFL and team owners, and basically, referring to the owners as a bunch of old white guys. And that was a pretty bold statement on behalf of LeBron. I thought that was pretty deep. I mean, you wouldn't expect a guy like in his stature to make a statement like that. Let's see here. Now, somebody says, I'm losing money in my stocks. What should I do? I'll do a session on that soon. Make sure you sign up at theblackfinancialchannel.com. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com, where we're going to be doing daily updates on investing, stock markets, things like that. So subscribe at theblackfinancialchannel.com. Some of you guys are already watching at that channel. So hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like and share button and all that stuff. So we can push Black financial intelligence out to the world. And I actually have a financial lesson I want to kind of lay in on this at the end relative to what LeBron is doing, because this is all financial. This is all about money. The reason LeBron is successful right now is because he understands the money. His business partner, Maverick Carter, he understands the money. Basically, the team owners, they understand the money. The corporations that create the corporate sponsorships that back LeBron financially, they understand the money. LeBron is worth about $440 million in part because, they've always known him to be a black man who would not say things like this. I think that it goes deeper. Sponsorships go deeper than just who's the best player on the court. Because if that were the case, then people like Muhammad Ali would have gotten all kinds of sponsorships, but they didn't want to sponsor Ali. They didn't want nothing to do with Ali until he couldn't talk no more. When he couldn't talk no more, they said, that's what we like. We like a silent Negro. They didn't want Ali when he was yapping. They wanted Ali when he was silent. So basically, with LeBron, there are some old white people, some old white men who really want to see LeBron silent. They're like, okay, can't you just be quiet, Negro? And just sit back and we'll take care of you. We'll pay you money. We'll make sure you're good. And, and that's just not what he's into this for. I love him for it. I think it's great. Okay. So, all right. So anyway, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, hit that like button. I'm sending out the text message now. Also, if you want to get a text alert when I go live at the Black Financial Channel, text the word Boyce to 31996. Text the word Boyce to 31996. And the reason you want to be on that text list is because I go live from a lot of different platforms, and we kind of have to duck and dodge and dip and move because basically we don't know what the different digital platforms are going to do. We don't know if Facebook is going to decide they want to put us back in Facebook jail for being too black, or if YouTube is going to give us a hard time, or if black folks are going to give us a hard time, or racists are going to give us a hard time. Everybody's working for the Klan. We got black people out here working for the Klan that literally don't want to see black people get empowered or to have access to information that will give them actual hope that the future can be better. I'm a believer in solutions. I'm a believer in solving problems. I'm a believer in black intelligence. I'm not a believer in whining, crying, complaining, and sitting around and feeling like you're a victim. Dear black people, you are not a victim. You are not a victim unless you choose to be a victim your whole life. I mean, sure, you can be a victim, but if you are a victim, sure, you can be a victim temporarily, but you should never see yourself as permanently relegated to victim status, because a victim doesn't score points. A victim is only able to play defense. A victim can't win championships. A victim's only hoping to survive. A victim is never going to prosper. A victim is just hoping to avoid devastation. So you are not a victim. You are a winner, and I want to see you win. And I believe we can do anything that there ain't nothing that a white man can do that I can't do myself. Ain't nothing that white people can do that you can't do as a community. So with that $1 trillion a year that you have in spending power, stop calling it $1 trillion in spending power, because it ain't spending power. There is no power in spending. That's giving all your money away. That's like saying that our offense is so good that we give the ball away to the defense every time we get it. Well, that's not a good offense. That's a shitty offense. So black people, financially, our offense sucks. We need to learn how to play defense with our money. You can't win championships if you don't play defense. So if you play an offense, you can't just play offense and give the ball away. You got to protect the ball and get the ball into the end zone. So stop calling your $1 trillion in spending power. Stop calling that power. That ain't power. That's $1 trillion in money that you're giving away every year to white people. So let's just be clear about that. But let me get back to the lesson at hand. Let's talk about this. Let's break this shit down real quick, because I want to be honest with you and real with you about what I'm seeing with this LeBron thing. And I'm going to break it down for you in a way that I don't think you're going to see a lot of analysts able to do it on TV, because most of them work for white people. I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. So here's the breakdown. All right. With LeBron made an interesting statement. In case you don't know, LeBron said basically that the NFL is run by a bunch of old white men. They have a plantation mentality. Well, anybody with more than 4 brain cells in their head, they know that that's true. Now, the question of how to deal with that plantation mentality is where the debate kind of comes in. I happen to be friends with people on the left, the Colin Kaepernick types, who I don't know Colin himself, but I know a lot of people who are in that space, and I respect them. And they, their response is, stand up, protest, kneel down, let them know how you feel. And I think that's great. But then I got people on the far right, like people like the Jason Whitlocks. I've talked to Jason Whitlock. He's a sports anchor, or not a sports anchor, a sports commentator. And he's good at what he does. Pisses a lot of people off because he's real conservative, and sometimes he even pisses me off. But Jason and I have good conversations, because I like the fact that he doesn't get offended by what I say. I don't get offended by what he says. So that's why he and I can be friends, even if we disagree completely. He doesn't think that kneeling, made sense in the NFL. He felt that the NFL is doing more harm than good for black people, because they've created a lot of black millionaires. Okay, that's a valid point. But then you got other people that are in that LeBron James space. I think guys like LeBron are in a space that's different from the Colin Kaepernicks, or even maybe a Jason Whitlock, right? But I don't know. Maybe Jason would actually agree with some of this. I have no idea. I can't read this man's mind. But I think the LeBrons, their mindset is, it ain't about liberal, it ain't about conservative, it's about ownership, right? It ain't about, whether you are lean to the left or lean to the right. It's about power, right? So LeBron is a young man who I believe has started to really realize his power. I think that LeBron, I don't know where he gets it from. He's wise beyond his years. I don't know where he gets it. I can't read his bio and see anywhere where he was exposed to something that made him into the man he is now. But LeBron is a guy that I can see from his words, he's really positioning himself for big moves in the future. LeBron is the reason that you went and watched LeBron on Carpool Karaoke with Ice Cube. He appeared with Ice Cube, who also appeared on this particular episode of The Shop, his show on HBO, to talk about this. The reason he's hanging with Ice Cube is because him and Ice Cube are getting together and they're making power moves, right? Him and Ice Cube are getting together saying, okay, I'm worth 400 million. You're worth 400 million, whatever. Let's get together and let's use our influence. Our influence is worth a couple of billion, right? Like our bank accounts are worth a combined total of almost $1 billion, but it doesn't matter. That's nothing compared to the influence. You understand? See, capital and wealth is not just about how much money you have in the bank. That's where black folks lose. We think that we don't have capital because we don't have cash. Capital and cash sometimes are 2 different things. They are not always one and the same. Most capital is not financial. I'm telling you, and this is where I'm putting on my black finance professor hat. Y'all know I got my black finance professor hat. So let me put this on right now. And this is black finance professor. So I'm gonna put on my black finance professor hat and give you some free game right here on how this stuff works. Capital is usually not financial. So stop thinking that black people are undercapitalized just because we can't get bank loans from white people. Sure, that's absolutely true. But our capital also includes that $1 trillion a year in spending that we somehow interpret to be spending power, when really that's not spending power, that's economic prostitution. So you might have been trained to be a prostitute and think that hoeing 24 hours a day gives you power. Like that's vagina power, right? Because I'm hoeing 24 hours a day. Well, then somebody might come along and say, baby, that's not really power. That's not power. When you're out here doing whatever for these men for a couple of dollars, that ain't power. Somebody told you that that's power, but the person who told you that that was power was probably your pimp, because you're empowering him by giving yourself away so cheap. So black people don't have $1 trillion in spending power. We have $1 trillion in spending losses. So if you take that trillion and we put it back in our pockets, imagine what would happen then. Capital goes deeper than just the amount of money we have in our bank account or how many black banks we have. Capital also goes to, speaking on Ice Cube and LeBron, it goes to the massive influence that their names have. Their names are worth probably a couple of $1 billion each. LeBron can get on the phone with 20 other, 30 other, 50 other black multimillionaires and make power moves that are out of this world. They can convince millions of black consumers to all get together and pool their money together to create a $100 billion, $50 billion, $20 billion project. That's how deep the capital goes. It ain't just how much money they have. In fact, if Ice Cube and LeBron combined have a total amount of wealth in their bank accounts of about $1 billion, I'd be willing to speculate that that's literally probably, in my mind, at least probably about 1/10 of their total capitalization that they have in this world. The amount of, and basically by capital, I'm referring to anything that you can use that will help you to make more money, anything that you can position that will give you more economic power. That is your capital. So capital usually isn't just your money, it's your labor, it's your influence, it's your network, it's all kinds of things. So let's just stop. Let's get off that bandwagon, because here's the thing: if you worship money, if you think money is the only type of capital, then you're automatically conceding the game to white folks. You're automatically saying white folks have more power than you because they've got more cash than you. I don't believe a white man got more power than me, because my knowledge alone is worth at least 50 million, maybe at least 100. My brain and my PhD, all the stuff I know is worth millions of dollars right there. So I will never walk through life feeling that white people are more powerful than me. I just think I have to be a little more creative and a little more strategic. Now, let me go in here. I see Terry says, thank you, LeBron, for using this platform. Yes, dual victory. How you doing, sister? I'm glad she's in here. Make sure you take care of the trolls and the haters and the crazy people that don't want to see black people building. We're gonna keep them out of this conversation. This is a conversation for grown folks. So the trolls don't need to be here, because this is above their pay grade. This is black people planning and preparing the economic revolution. So here's proof that LeBron is right. Now, LeBron made this comment about the NFL being filled with old white men. I'm sure that all these old white men were pissed, but that's fine. They can be pissed. Let me show you something that just kind of confirms what LeBron said. Now, if you are on theblackfinancialchannel.com, you'll see these images. If you're not on theblackfinancialchannel.com, you will not see the images, but just imagine some crusty ass looking white men whenever I say their names, and you'll probably be pretty close to being accurate. That's what I'm going to show. So if you want to see it, go to theblackfinancialchannel.com. That's where I'm live right now, and you can actually see the images that go up on screen. So this is a list of the 17 richest NFL owners, according to CBSNews.com. So here's one guy. So what is that? Old white man. Jeff Lurie, he's worth what, $1.85 billion. He was born in 1951 into the General Cinema movie theater family. So his family owned movie theaters, right? So they passed wealth down to him, and he used that wealth to eventually go buy a football team. I don't think that most NFL owners make the bulk of their wealth from owning a sports team. You get the sense that this is something that they do after they've already made their money somewhere else, right? So owning the sports team is almost like a hobby or something like that. But some of them have actually made real money, like the I think it's the Hallows family that owns the Chicago Bears. I think they bought the Bears for $100 or $500 or something crazy like that. And so those who can think 50 years, 70 years in the future are the ones that have a lot of economic opportunities all around them, because there are probably things you could buy right now for just a few $1,000s that could be worth millions, maybe billions later on. Who's the next person? Okay, old white man number 2. This is Dan Schneider. Dan Schneider owns the Washington Redskins. Dan is, he's about he's maybe, I think, 54 years old, which compared to LeBron's age, okay, that makes him an old white man. So there you go, old white man number 2. He's worth about $2.3 billion. Number 3, specimen number 3 is Jim Irsay, who owns the Indianapolis Colts, old white man, number 3. He started as vice president and general manager of the Colts at the age of 25, and blah, 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 blah. Next, okay, this guy's really an old white man. Look at him. He looks like he's about 8,000 years old. This guy, Tom Benson, he owns the New Orleans Saints. He's worth $2.8 million. He's well known for doing the Benson Boogie. a New Orleans second line dance down the field of the Superdome after Saints home victories, umbrella and all. So he did the Benson Boogie, which I don't know what the hell that is. All right, so next old white man, again, going back to what LeBron said, Jimmy Haslam. He's the CEO of Pilot Flying J truck stops and gas stations. So he's the CEO of a truck stop and gas station chain. He's worth about 3.5 billion. He owns the Cleveland Browns, which are known as actually one of the worst organizations in all of football to work for. So Jimmy Haslam, all right, so he's there. All right, next you got Robert McNair, who owns the Houston Texans. That's worth 3.8. He's worth 3.8 billion. Now notice most of these guys don't make their money from football. It appears a lot of them have their money being made somewhere else. So Robert McNair, who I think actually got caught making some real racist comments during the whole Kaepernick controversy, he is his field is energy. That's Texas. Texas is big on energy. There's a whole lot of money being made in energy. Okay, somebody said Tom Benson's dead, so maybe this is an old article, but it's still pretty accurate. I'm sure they've got some other old white man to replace him. Arthur Blank, Atlanta Falcons. He's worth 4.2 billion. That's another old white man. I think in the list there was one guy who wasn't an old white man, and he wasn't black. He's from Pakistan. Steve Bisciotti, Baltimore Ravens, 4.2 billion. I think Bisciotti was the white man that Ray Lewis was like hugging up on and crying with and stuff, which really was like the most Samuel L. Jackson Django Unchained moment I've ever seen in my life. Y'all remember that picture where Ray Lewis like hugging his owner and crying like literally this man was his master? It was very embarrassing, but I guess that's what you got to do to make sure that you still have a job after you can't play football no more. Next, you got this other old white guy, Terrence Pagula. He's oil and real estate. Those are his areas, oil and real estate. He owns the Buffalo Bills. Next, number 11, you got Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys, very famous, worth 5.6 billion. 1989, he bought the Cowboys for 140 million. I believe the Cowboys are worth billions of dollars now. So that's like just free game, like a simple idea here to understand how wealth is really made by rich people. They buy something cheap and then they let it grow in value. In fact, there's a lecture I'm going to do in the Black Business School. I'm going to do it for free of charge for anybody who wants to. So if you want to come to this lecture, I'm going to do it this week. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out what I call the KEG model of wealth building. It's something very easy you can teach your children. We have the KID model for turning your child into a millionaire. Some of you know about how we teach our children to keep their poise, POISE, and what that means: producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur, the cost model, cooperative economics. And so the KEG model basically it focuses on three things as a key to wealth building. K is keeping your money. E is earning as much money as you can. G is growing your money as much as possible. And believe it or not, within each of those three acronyms, there's a whole abyss, a whole rabbit hole of understanding available to kind of understand what that means. Like, what does that mean to keep your money? Like what, saving versus spending, stuff like that. Earning means understanding all the tools necessary, all the tools and the ways people earn money. They go beyond just showing up to work and getting a paycheck. It goes far, far deeper than that. And then growing basically means making passive income, positioning your money to grow, big flips. So Jerry Jones had 140 million, right? And so back in 1989, he's sitting on this 140 million. Now he could have just, bought like 10,000 Gucci belts and a couple of Bentleys and Rolls Royces. But, this guy said, oh, I think I'm going to go and I'm going to pursue my passion of football. And I'm going to go buy this football team. I'm hopefully going to make a big flip, right? So he buys the Dallas Cowboys in 1989 for 140 million. Now, let me see what the Cowboys are worth now. I'm not sure what the Cowboys are worth today. They are worth, let me see here, value of the Dallas Cowboys. All right, let's see. What's the market value of the Dallas Cowboys? They are worth $4.8 billion. It went up 14% last year. So do the math right there, right quick. Okay, I want you to just kind of take a moment and process this. And let's just kind of really think about this, right? That's like taking 140 million and turning it into 4.8 billion. It's like taking $140 and turning it into $4,800, or it's like buying a house for $140,000 and the house being worth $4.8 million years later. Imagine if you bought a house for 140 grand and you held that house for 25 years or whatever, and it was worth $4.8 million by the time you sold it, right? That does happen. That has happened in some places like San Francisco, New York City, etc., right? So the idea is that, people that tend to have a lot of money, like these old rich white men that run the NFL, they tend to be people that were trained early that one of the easiest ways to make money is to do the big flips, right? So they would do the big flips. They go buy something for $1 million and it'd be worth 10, 20 million later. And that's when they end up having the most money. And Jay-Z alluded to that in 444, on his album. He kind of broke that down a little bit, but I don't really know if everybody heard that. I don't really know if everybody got that when he was rapping about that, about a painting he could have bought that was worth, so much money when he first got it. And now it's, now it's worth $20 million. And he sat there and watched it go up in value. So ultimately, that's just kind of an idea. That's sort of like just a quick tip on how wealth is built, how people get rich in America. Now, let me finish showing you guys the rest of these old white men, just kind of proving LeBron's point that the NFL is run by old white men. And I think it's important to kind of stand by him because believe me, they're going to get his ass. At some point, you're going to see a scandal on LeBron. They're going to pull up a side chick from years ago. They're going to make something up. They're going to do whatever it is that they got to do to take this guy down. Moving on. We said Jerry Jones. Now this other guy, Robert Kraft, who runs the New England Patriots. 6.2 billion is what he's worth. He bought the Patriots for 172 million, which was a record back when he bought the Patriots. They don't say what year he bought them, but I guarantee you the New England Patriots are worth a whole lot more than 172 million. They're probably worth $3 or $4 billion, just like the Cowboys were. This guy is the only one I saw who wasn't an old white man. This is a guy named Shahid Khan, who's from Pakistan. So he ain't black, but and he's worth about 7.4 billion, and he owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. He bought them in 2011 for 760 million, which was still a good investment. So a lot of people at the time that he bought the Jaguars, I'm sure, said, "Oh, you're overpaying. That's too much. That's such a high price." But he saw the future. You see, wealth builders tend to be people that can really see the future. Poor people, unfortunately, I'm gonna say poor people who don't move ahead in the wealth space tend to be people who can only see the present or they can only see the past. So when you see the debate in the black community over whether or not black people can build wealth, you've got basically a difference in vision. You've got some people who see the future, who have a future-based belief, a future-based objective, and then versus people that only see the present and only see the past. So these are people that will say, black people can't build anything because we don't have anything. Black people are going to stay behind because we are behind. Black people have had everything stolen from us, so therefore we can never acquire anything. Whereas there are other people who say, we could probably actually have something if we start doing certain things right now. So this man bought the Jaguars for 760 million, which was an insane price at that time. And now you see the Jaguars are worth, I don't know what they're worth now. Let me see. I'm going to look up market value. Even though they suck, the Jaguars are like a horrible football team, but I'm willing to bet you that they're worth at least a couple billion. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me see, because Jacksonville's not a big metropolitan area. Okay, Jacksonville is worth 1.95 billion. So, and according to Forbes, they're worth a little over 2. So I said about 2 billion. So I guess I'm a good guesser. I don't know. So anyway, so if you go down the list, there are more people. Now somebody said, do I not consider Pakistanis to be black? No, not really. They're not African American anyway, for sure. Now they're people of color, but and really to me, what it really comes down to when you look at people from all over the world is, how do you feel about black people? Do you stand with black people? Do you help black people in our struggle in America? If you stand with us as allies and you have large groups and large organizations in your community that stand with black people and have our backs when we fight for reparations and things like that, then yeah, you're a true ally. But most immigrant groups do not align themselves with black people because black people are kind of seen as the pariah. We're presented through media, through this documentary called The Nigger Factory really shows it really well. We're presented through media as kind of these sort of animals, these sort of ignorant, ridiculous buffoons that you don't want to be associated with. So a lot of people come to America and they want the fruits of being an American, but they don't want anything to do with African Americans. They kind of see African Americans as like this diseased group of people that they don't want to be around. So anyway, let's see here. Terry says, thank you, Dr. Boyce, for giving us a heads up into what I can expect from enrolling in one of your courses. Yeah, absolutely, Terry. The Black Business School is a great place to get a great education because We focus everything on Black people. Our experts are only focused on one objective, and that's helping Black people get ahead in the world. We don't seek accreditation from mainstream America, because that has not benefited Black people. You can't show me examples where that system has benefited Black people. So actually, rather than seeking accreditation, we give accreditation. We create accreditation, and that's because we have the same PhDs that you had at the University of Texas or Yale or Stanford. The difference is that our PhDs have real world experience, and they only care about Black people, and they cost about 1/100th of what you paid for the PhDs at the other universities. So the other great thing about the Black Business School that we do that no university does that I know of is we also actually have a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. So if you are in the Black Business School and you have any issues at all, I want you to email support@theblackbusinessschool.com, support@theblackbusinessschool.com. And there are people there literally waiting to help you out, answer your questions, work with your budget, help you figure out which class to take next, all of that stuff. So, and I think that's really important to understand, because as we built the Black Business School, we've had a lot of people that question that. We have a lot of people that don't really, I guess they have a different view on Black business. I don't know if they just don't want Black people to have businesses or what, but they'll say, oh, that's a scam, that's a fraud. And we'll say, well, where's the proof? Like if it is that way, then we need you to try it out. Come in and join for free, and try it out. Right? Email our support team that where their literal mission every day is customer happiness. I tell them, make everybody who comes through, make sure they're very, very happy. Try it out. If you try us out, then you'll find that, that we're just a bunch of Black people who are just doing our best and building a university that's not going to exploit you the way White Man University did, or the way Yale or Stanford did. Because a lot of Black college graduates are sitting under a pile of debt that they can't get out of. And they're not happy because they feel like their degree isn't giving them the kind of opportunities that they would like to have. And we can explain to you exactly why that happened. You see, it happened because you were trained to go, you're trained to question us when we say, hey, this class is $4 a day and we've got PhDs teaching you. But you don't question it when that other university says, you got to pay $50,000 a year to go to school here. So you sign the dotted line, you end up with a massive amount of debt, and they say, here you go, here's your degree. So what happens is you step out and you get this degree, and you're like, I got this degree, I'm gonna go, I made it, mama, I made it. Well, you're carrying the degree with a big pile of debt behind you that's like dragging along the ground, and you can't run very fast because you got all that debt, right? And then you're going to knocking on all these doors in these businesses and other communities that are not your own community, right? You're going out of your community to try to find opportunities, and you find, unfortunately, that you're still Black. You find, unfortunately, that the opportunities that they promise you that you'd have, they don't really exist. And when you get the opportunities, it's very easy to either get fired, or it's very easy to never get a promotion, or never get the raise, or never get the income you deserve. And you're overly dependent on this system, this racist system, to pay your bills, to pay back that debt. So on both sides, you're trapped into slavery on both sides. On one side, you're not making as much money as you need to make to truly get free, and you don't have any tools because of the structure of your education. You were not given very many tools on how to actually make money. You don't know about all the different avenues to make money that go far beyond just looking for a job, right? But then on the other side, you got Uncle Sam banging on your door saying, yeah, we know that you're not happy with the education you got. We know that you feel like your degree is worthless, but we also know that you owe us $80,000. So we need you to pay up right now, right? So you're stuck with the debt, and your income level isn't high enough to serve the debt. So basically, you're a slave to the debt. And the thing about education is education is supposed to liberate you. It's not supposed to enslave you. So if you want to try out the Black Business School, I highly recommend it. We have 70,000 students, thousands of very happy people. If you are one of the happy people, I encourage you, if you see anybody trying to just, diss what we're trying to build or whatever, we would love to have your help. Like, go in there and just kind of say, look, I took a class there. It was awesome. Or encourage them. We don't want to hate anybody. I don't want to fight anybody. Just come out and just say, hey, why don't you go give it a try? Like, why don't you go take a class? Like, just go over there, because I think that sometimes with Black folks, there is a jealousy, there's a crabs in the barrel kind of thing going on, where they maybe because I'm the face of it all, they say, oh, this guy's doing well. I'm going to destroy him so I can feel better about myself. And my thought is like, why would you want to destroy me when really we can actually work together? We should be building together. come and tell me your ideas, and we can put the ideas on the table. Because one thing I can tell you for sure is that most of the people that you see that are most visible, that will criticize what we're doing the most, two things, unfortunately. One is they don't really usually have a better solution, right? So they're kind of killing one solution and replacing it with nothing, which is a big problem. But then two, most of these are people that I've actually helped out a lot, that we've helped out a lot, that have been educated in the school, or maybe they've worked with us and we gave them money and we stopped giving them money and they got upset. So long story short, I just want to see Black people building together. And most people don't think this way, but I don't want you guys to be afraid of, because it's a Black business. I would like for you to just say, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm just gonna go sign up for a little class, see if I like it. There's a 30-day 100% money back guarantee policy. I can just email support@theblackbusinessschool.com to get my money back if I'm not happy. And what's probably going to happen is you're going to go in there, and if you take the curriculum seriously and go through the material, or let your children go through the material, it's going to change your life. Everything we've got in place is unlike anything I've ever seen anywhere. I've taught at the Ohio State University, Syracuse University, University of Kentucky, Indiana University. I've taught in China. I've taught in Europe. I've taught in, I've given lectures in Africa. I have given lectures all over the world. And I have not seen anything like this anywhere. So it's that damn good. And I just want to see you win. So basically, just going back to LeBron, please hit that thumbs up button if you're on the Black Financial Channel. If you haven't, come by, make sure you subscribe at theblackfinancialchannel.com. That's where we're doing our daily financial commentary, theblackfinancialchannel.com. And the other thing I was going to mention here about LeBron is that, here's the thing. I think that what LeBron is doing, honestly, deep down, is I believe it's a power move. I think that LeBron didn't just make that statement just kind of, offhandedly. I don't think he was just saying it to just kind of piss people off. I think LeBron said it because he's positioning the public for moves that he and Ice Cube and others are plotting for the future. I believe that these guys, secretly behind the scenes, from what I understand, LeBron is actually, through Maverick Carter, they're actually representing players now. So they're stepping into this space that's typically controlled by other people. And somebody said, do you speak Mandarin? Wo kwe shuo idian putangwa. So that means I speak very little Mandarin, and then I usually say kasher wo shoro buhao. So that means, but I speak poorly. So I speak a little Mandarin, but I suck at it. So that's about as much as you're gonna get out of me. But anyway, so I think that this is kind of a power move. I think that what he's kind of saying is, this is not your best option. And I think at some point he and Ice Cube and others are going to present a better option. Remember, Ice Cube already has a sports league. He owns the Big Three. That was a power move on Ice Cube's part. He ain't just making family movies and doing gangster rap albums that weirdos like me listen to. I dig Ice Cube's music, but I don't know if he's selling millions of records. I don't think he's selling millions of records of Everything's Corrupt. That's his latest album. It's a good album, but he ain't like a Cardi B status type of rapper. However, Ice Cube, he's still doing whatever he wants to do and making money at it. I think the big power play for him long term, it looks like it's going to be continuing to make the family movies, because that's where all the money's at. I think he's going to keep making his albums because it seems like he just loves music. And I think the Big Three League is going to be a big power move. I watched the Big Three League. It's really good. It's really good. They even got old guys like Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Remember Chris Jackson, who played with Shaquille O'Neal, who's killing. He's still really good. And I love the fact that he's able to see the value that these guys can still bring, as far as, them being, good brands, solid brands that you can actually draw a crowd with. And in professional sports, that's all it's about. It's about branding. Because, why is it that, if a player leaves college and they're a great player and they can't get into the NFL, how come there aren't other leagues that they can join? Well, the reason there aren't right now is because there hasn't been another league so far that's been branded well enough, where the teams have been branded well enough that people will want to come see them. It's not about the quality of the players, because if it was about the quality of the players, then nobody will watch college basketball when you could just go watch an NBA game, right? Why do you want to watch Duke versus North Carolina when you could be watching, the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Dallas Mavericks? Well, you watch Duke and North Carolina maybe because you identify with Duke. Maybe you went to Duke. Maybe Duke's just your team, right? And so ultimately, that branding component is what the NCAA has that gives it tremendous strength and value. And that's what the NBA and NFL have, that basically allow them to monetize in a way other leagues cannot. However, we can flip that. Those of us who are sports fans, there are alternatives out there. I think it's called the Alliance, the Alliance of America Football League. That's another sports league that's out there. There are all these arena teams that are really, really good. So there's other ways to watch football outside of the NFL, right? And it's still good football. These are great players. These are players that are as good as the NFL players. They just barely didn't make the cut or whatever. Like, think about it. Imagine that guy who's super good and he just, for whatever reason, isn't on an NFL roster. The Alliance of American Football League has players that are better than the players that you watch in college every week. These guys could put together a team that could beat the University of Alabama. So these are great football players. The problem is that they're just not well branded. So basically what I decided to do is I'm actually going to start watching some of these other alternative leagues because I just love good football. And I hate the fact that I have to feel guilty every time I watch an NFL game because the NFL has been so ridiculous and so racist. And I also think that the solution to the race problem in the NFL is not a matter of just getting a bunch of black team owners in the NFL. Ain't nobody said that you got to have black owners in the NFL for there to be parity. Remember, the NFL will probably always be a white man's league, even if there are black people invited into the house. They're being invited into a white man's house, right? White men kind of run that situation. So if you're black and they let you in, it's only because you're an acceptable Negro. I want there to be a league full of unacceptable Negroes. I want the unacceptable Negroes like me, right? I'm unacceptable. I would never fit as an NFL owner. I could have $10 billion and they still wouldn't let me own an NFL team, right? And even if I was quiet and calm and meek enough to get them to let me in, I couldn't be who I am. I couldn't do what I do and be an owner in the NFL. So why not do what the NFL did? Why not start your own football league? And so the Alliance of American Football is one example. There's the Freedom Football League, I believe. There's Canadian football, stuff like that. Ice Cube's got this Big Three thing coming on. I believe that that's a precursor, could be a precursor to an actual NBA alternative. I'm talking about 5-on-5, straight up, real basketball, take all those G League, D League type players who are still really good, who could still really hold their own and did well in college, and let them play in the league. I mean, they do it all over Europe. They got all kinds of little leagues in Europe and Asia and all that. Why can't they have one here? Stephon Marbury left the NBA and went to China and became a megastar. I mean, Stephon Marbury is such a star. They put a trophy, they put a statue of him in front of the stadium like they did with Michael Jordan. Like, it was crazy to me. I was like, wow. He won 3 championships, so ultimately there should be alternatives. See, the big problem, the reason that the NFL gets to run like a plantation, the reason the NFL gets to treat the NBA player or the NFL players like slaves is because the slaves have no options. They have no alternatives. They have nowhere to go. So basically, when they're sitting there and they're mad because they're not getting paid enough, or the owners are controlling them like they're little children, it all kind of comes down to the fact that they know that these athletes have nowhere else they can be. The NCAA actually violated antitrust law because there was the NAIA that was forming a league that was an alternative to the NCAA, and they went and they overpaid and bought out the NAIA to shut them down. The NFL had a strong competitor in the USFL, and Donald Trump actually played a role in selling out the USFL. They were pulling in Heisman Trophy winners into this league. This league was real football, really good. Fans were coming to the games, and they just sold out. And because the goal was to get, to become part of the NFL. And I thought that was terrible because I think that was an option. So that's the biggest challenge. That's why black people are oppressed by the NFL, is that there are no alternatives to the NFL. So, the fact that there are no alternatives is what allows the owners to treat the athletes like they're just a bunch of niggas and not show respect to them. So basically, at the end of the day, that's where all this is, and that's where all this is going. That's where I think LeBron's comment came from. And I think that LeBron and Ice Cube, if anybody, are guys that are in a position to make, just extraordinary power moves in the league. I support that. I think that they can pull it off. I think that when they do, just be kind of mindful. And when they do, support it. Just buy a ticket, go to the games. Remember, the same way you cheer for the Buffalo Bills, you could be cheering for whatever teams they have. Go to the Big Three league. Pick a team, that you want to follow or whatever. I watch Big Three basketball on YouTube. I watch all my sports on YouTube. Honestly, I don't really have time to watch entire games. And the Big Three games are really, really good. They are really, really good. So if you are a true sports fan, you will love the Big Three league. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you guys. If you guys want to actually learn about some of this stuff in a more detailed way, read books like Powernomics. I keep Powernomics nearby. This is like a Bible for me, an economic Bible. And basically, he talks about the fact that Black people, to get power, should try to control industries where we dominate. So that means in sports and entertainment, places where we tend to have the most talent, we should also have the most ownership. But in order for that to happen, we must spread the gospel of Black ownership and make sure everyone understands what that means. So, and also in a couple of days, if you guys are in the Black Business School, or if you want to join, I'm going to actually do a free lecture for everybody. It won't cost you a thing. And I'm going to actually break down my KEG model, KEG model, of wealth building. So something very basic, very simple, something you can use for your family, your children. You can put it up on the wall so your kids can kind of learn this stuff at an early age. I spend most of my time literally obsessing over ways I can take all these advanced financial theories I learned in getting my PhD and making them so simple that we can commercialize them, market the hell out of them, and implant them in the brains of young Black people at a very early age. That's what's going to allow us as Black people to become some of the greatest wealth builders in this world. And don't ever believe anybody who tells you Black people don't have any money at all. We don't have any wealth. That's not true. Actually, if you look at the data, if Black people were a country, we would actually have, we actually spend more money than 95% of all the countries on the planet. The problem is that we are trained to give our money back to white people, and that's why it seems like we don't have much. So it's almost like somebody having a big bucket full of liquid, full of water, and every time you fill the bucket up with water, they drill a hole in the bottom, and all the water comes out the bottom, and then somebody says, look, see, they don't have any water, right? But nobody's paying attention to the fact that the big bucket that they have, it gets filled up every day, but somebody drills a hole in it. So that's why they end up looking thirsty, because somebody else is drinking their water and it's not them. Okay, so it's not that you don't have any wealth or any income in your community. You know, two things are true. One, you don't have as much wealth and as much money as white folks. That's absolutely true. But then two, you're really trained to consume and to spend. So what you do get, you give it all away. But if you, let's say everybody in the Black community was a wealth builder. Let's say every person in the Black community, 90% of all Black people felt like it was very important to own a home. 90% of all Black people in the Black community were stock market investors. Let's say 90% of all Black people we're joining some group to become entrepreneurs, to figure out how to start businesses or to invest in other people's businesses. Then what would happen is, within a generation, whatever wealth level we have, it would probably quintuple within one generation. Right. So I just want you to kind of know this, that there are options, there are solutions out here, and my job is to share solutions with you. And I just want to make sure we remain distracted. We avoid being distracted. We remain focused so that we can actually implement some of this. And I want you to implement it within your own household. Okay, everybody. So I'm out of here, guys. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe at theblackfinancialchannel.com. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. Also, if you want to check out our financial flashcards for children, maybe for Christmas, something like that, go to financialflashcards.com. That's financialflashcards.com. I invented flashcards. You can drill your kids on this stuff on a regular basis, and the adults in your house, and it'll give you sort of the ability to understand basic wealth and economic equations, okay, or basic concepts. All right, so I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day, and I will see you soon. And it was real. So good job, LeBron. I'm very proud of you, bro.